Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons vs. Rams Week 2 post-game show. A lot of emotions, I'm aware, about about how this game ended. Certainly not as dire as it appeared to be just, 15, 20 minutes ago. Not as happy as it could have been either, obviously. I know a lot of us were hoping, there was a chance to get the Demons excised this week, as the Falcons were down 28-3 to the Rams at one point. It even got worse than that. Then the Falcons slowly started to come back, and then very quickly started to come back in this one. So definitely excited to dig in to what was a not bad game overall, right? For much of this game, the Falcons looked like they didn't belong on the same field as the Rams, and that's probably true, right? This is a team in the Falcons that has 50 plus million in dead cap, if not more than that. They're sort of cobbling things together, going up against a Super Bowl hopeful team in the Rams, coming off a Super Bowl win. And it's a mismatch. Like, they were 10-point underdogs. I mean, none of us were, well, some of us probably were, but I think most of us were not necessarily expecting a win. I think we were expecting the team to fight and to look better than last year. And by the end of the game, I think that they did show that they're going to be a little bit better than last year in terms of their ability to keep pace with these good teams. Last year when they got down like that, they never really came back. Like, they got down like that a couple of times, like to the Cowboys, to the Patriots, I think it was last year. And they just never could get anything together, even late in the game. And the Falcons in this one did manage to do that, right? They did manage to get back on the horse, make a few things happen, both offensively and defensively. They were pretty ineffective on a play-to-play basis at shutting down the Rams' offense, or really even limiting them for most of the game. Yes, Ray, I see yours. I'm gonna get yours here in just a second. So yeah, even limiting the Rams' offense, they weren't doing a very good job at. But they were actually creating some turnovers. They were keeping the Rams from pulling away more, I guess. And that ended up helping quite a bit. Obviously, the Falcons marching down the field and missing a field goal to open the game was definitely a dark omen over this one. But they did manage to eventually sort of come back from being down, 28-3, to bring this game within a pretty impressive margin here. 27-31. That's just a 4-point game. And if you get that field goal early in the game, obviously everything changes because the Rams don't take that safety, and who knows what happens after that. But the Falcons certainly made the Rams sweat here, which is a lot more than they did against pretty much any playoff caliber team last year. So far, I think the way they finished made you feel a lot better than you did maybe half an hour ago when they were getting the shit kicked out of them and not putting up much resistance. Obviously, the play-to-play consistency was not really there for this group. They were pretty much outclassed entirely by the Rams. Offensively, defensively, the Falcons had very little they could do to slow down the Rams. That's not necessarily surprising, right? Because the Rams do have an elite pass catching core. You'd think the Falcons would have been able to put a little more pressure on, with the Rams starting two backups on the offensive line, going to their third string right guard because their second string right guard got hurt on the first or second play of the game. It's disappointing to see them struggle in that regard on defense after a pretty good game against the Saints. I don't know what they were doing defensively for much of this game. It looked like they were just swapping out a bunch of players. They had Eric Harris playing the slot if not most of this game, I would say. I mean, I haven't rewatched it, and I will, tomorrow. But it was a weird game schematically from the defensive side, and we'll get into that. I do want to get to Ray Moon's donation here. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, the link to donate, which will obligate me to read your comment as long as it's not, too incendiary, is streamlabs.com/thefalcoholic/tip. We do appreciate all those donations. We got Ray Moon with the $5. Thanks, Ray. He says, Arthur Smith's play calling is baffling. Mariota is clearly going only, I think you're trying to say he's only going to like 2 reads before he gets uncomfortable. If he can't be involved in the scheme, why not try to force some screenplays to get him involved? I don't know if you're talking about Pitts, like, not being involved. I know you mentioned that in the chat. But yeah, the play calling in this, I think, was a weak point for sure. I think the 2nd and 9 run on that last drive was a big mistake. You guys know how I feel about 2nd and long runs. It just wasn't executed well either. And for a 2nd and 9 run to be worth it, you need to get like 5 to 6 yards. And the Falcons, I think, got 5 to 6 yards on a run like 2 times in the entire game. So from a success rate sort of perspective, I just hate long runs. And what do you know? Mariota ends up getting sacked on the option that's blown up by the Rams, who were basically dominating the Falcons in the trenches on both sides of the ball pretty much all day except until late in the game. So that's not great. Obviously, you don't like that Pitts isn't being targeted. Right now, Drake London's benefiting a lot from Pitts being the center of attention for the opposing defense. But Pitts is the type of player that you still have to target. The Falcons really didn't do a great job of that in this game. They did get him a few catches, but not enough for a player of his caliber. The run game really struggled. The Falcons only got 90 yards in this one after putting up 200 last week. Cordarrelle Patterson still averaged over 4 yards a carry, so that's nice. Tyler Algier did have 10 carries in this one, so good for the rookie. He was only at 3 yards per carry. Honestly, it was mostly on the offensive line. They didn't really clear a lot of holes for these guys in this game. It was a lot not as successful as last week, certainly, so that's something to monitor. We did see, of course, Drake London, the star of the show this week, 8 for 86 and a touchdown, handling a ton of volume with Kyle Pitts not really being as big of a factor. 10.8 yards per reception, which is not great necessarily, but London, most of his catches were first downs. They were crucial plays. He's definitely becoming the guy in this offense, more than Pitts really ever has been, which is bizarre. But, it's one of those things that if Pitts is getting all the attention, London's going to massacre single coverage, which is exactly why they drafted him. If London doesn't have the attention on him, he's going to go off, which he is. So when teams start to give more of their attention to Drake London, I think we're going to see the same exact thing happen with Kyle Pitts. Now Kyle Pitts is finally seeing some favorable looks. The ball's going to come his way. But from someone who's really been a big supporter of Marcus Mariota, this was a very poor game from him as a passer. A lot of off-target throws, especially early in this game. Even late, that final pick to Bryan Edwards was high. He was hit while he threw, so, I don't want to put that entirely on him. That bobbled pass to Cordarrelle Patterson, it wasn't an awful throw, but it wasn't, I wouldn't consider that on target either. Cordarrelle Patterson had to jump up and reach high to catch that thing. And that ended up in the bobbled pass that led to an interception. He was off on a lot of throws in this one, and he's showing that maybe he is more limited as a passer than expected. I thought last week he did play well, so I'm not necessarily willing to write off Mariota yet, but he does have a rookie breathing down his neck in Desmond Ridder, who the coaching staff likes. So if Mariota doesn't start hitting these throws more consistently, then he's going to end up the scapegoat for problems pretty quick, fair or not. And, we're already seeing people calling for Desmond Ridder. So he's going to have to work on that stuff. Obviously, it's only his second game playing with this offense in the regular season. We shouldn't expect too much of him, but I think after a pretty darn good week one, I think it's disappointing to see him struggle so much against a Rams secondary that was looking a little bit hurt, but is also very good. Like Jalen Ramsey, Troy Hill, even David Long, the guy who came in for Troy Hill after he got hurt. Those guys are very good corners. And then the safeties in Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott are excellent. So it's tough to – it's a good secondary for the Rams. It is what it is. And the Falcons just didn't really do much on the ground. in this one either. So it was a tough day on offense. Defensively, the Falcons just pretty much got gashed in this one. We saw the Falcons actually it's gonna go down interesting statistically because Brandon Powell had a negative 26-yard rush on that safety. It's actually going to go down as the Falcons holding the Rams to just 65 yards rushing as a result, when I think they really had like 90. So like it's going to look like the Falcons actually had a really great day offensively, or like a not as bad of a day defensively. I mean, they only allowed 337 total yards, counting that minus 26-yard play, and 272 passing yards, which is not a huge number. I mean, it's certainly not what you want, but it's not as bad as you might think. Conversely, the Falcons only 261 total yards, clearly not good enough there. 3 of 10 on third down, just not good enough. 3 sacks allowed after not allowing any last week. It's just not like on both sides of the ball. The Falcons just didn't execute nearly as well as they needed to beat this team. But I think it's also okay to praise them for the just in the way we just totally railed them last week for failing to finish and giving up 16 points and rolling over late. We did see this team actually this week do the opposite, roar back from a huge deficit, make it a game, and come very close, not quite close enough. But they did have an opportunity to win this game at the end. Once again, in a game where they were 10-point underdogs and trailed by 25 points. So that is worthy of praise. That's certainly, I would prefer to lose games like this than like last week where you have a 16-point lead and blow it, because I'm so done with that. Like if they're going to get beat by teams that are better than them but make a game of it, that's sort of what we're all hoping for this year. And it does make me feel better about this one that it was a more game effort, right? Like last year when the Falcons played playoff caliber teams, they just got their asses kicked and it was really not close. I mean, their point differential was just god awful because of how badly they lost to a lot of these teams. So I think it's important to recognize that, yes, they are 0-2. But this second loss, not as bad as the first one. And I'm more impressed with how they finished in this one, certainly, than in week one. I think that this leaves you with a better taste in your mouth than, it leaves you with a better taste in your mouth than blowing a 16-point lead, certainly. So, hoping for this to translate into wins at some point, right? But there's some schematic things I want to get to, some weird personnel things that I want to get to. But first I need to take a sip of something because I'm getting a little hoarse here. Yeah, appreciate all you guys, all 320 of you, for hanging out with us after this game, spending your late Sunday night with me here on the Falcoholic Live. I am at Falcoholic Kevin on the Twitter. Please give us a like and subscribe if you are so inclined. We do appreciate those metrics. You can also check out the Patreon if you want access to some exclusive content with us. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. Also, early access to all the podcast episodes. You'll get them the night before. And access to some other exclusive content like the Q&A sessions. So, not bad perks in my opinion, but I'll leave that up to you guys. The way the Falcons were deploying their defense early in this game, I thought was a little bit puzzling. They sort of went away from what they did last week. They went very, very heavy zone, which a lot of teams play against the Rams because the Rams receivers, when they're healthy, are so good at beating man coverage because they're just so damn talented. Like Cooper Kupp is just a dominant man coverage receiver. He's so easy he's so good at getting open. A lot of teams play zone to try to limit that. The Rams are also very good at picking apart zone, but Matthew Stafford is also susceptible to picks. So that also, when you're playing zone, you could fool him, which the Falcons did in this game. Michael Walker he had it thrown right to him. So I don't necessarily have an issue with the way they deployed like the scheme. I mean, it didn't work very well, but when you can't get pressure, zone is always going to struggle. Like, I mean, any coverage really will, but if you can't get pressure, it's gonna make your coverage look bad. It really has to be, a full effort from both sides, and we all know right now the Falcons' pass rush is just not. There's just not enough there to do it consistently, even against an undermanned offensive line like the Rams. Frankly, I'm pretty shocked that the Falcons got 4 sacks against the Saints last week. It's just, I don't think this pass rush is good. I don't think that's going to be something that repeats. Now, hopefully they'll still get more than last week, but they did get 1 this week, so there was 1 sack. So we're at 5 on the year. We're well on our way to beating last year's total, which doesn't necessarily say much, but it is something. But what I didn't really get was the Falcons like playing Eric Harris as the slot defender. I just thought that was odd, given that the Rams run 11 so much. Like they're not really I mean, Tyler Higbee does sometimes line up in the slot. That's true, but the Rams also just play a lot of 11. So I think I figured the Falcons would have wanted a third corner out there. I mean, I'm guessing they wanted the run stuffing help, but it clearly wasn't helping against the run. They were getting, destroyed against the run early in this game. So odd decision there. They also went with Troy Anderson for a bit there at linebacker. I don't know if Rashawn Evans got roughed up and needed to come off the field or what. And like, I'm, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm excited about Troy Anderson as much as anyone. I like Troy Anderson. I just don't really think he's ready to play like full time. I mean, he's not ready to make NFL reads and be an NFL linebacker at this point, like against the run. Obviously, as a coverage player, he's ready to go there, but it just was kind of odd. And then, so it just schematically with the guys they were playing, I just was a little bit confused. I don't know why we didn't lean on someone like D. Alford more. We didn't even really see D. Alford today. Mike Ford got more reps, even though I thought Alford played a better game overall last week as well. So just some things I would quibble with there. I mean, I don't know that any of that really made the difference overall in the outcome of the game, but puzzling. Obviously, you guys know how I feel about Kyle Pitts not getting, utilized in the red zone, not really getting utilized much at all. It's just a bizarre way that they're choosing to use him. Like like they're just basically committed to making him a decoy. And you can't, like, he's too good for you to use as a decoy. Like, you just have to give him targets. Like, I don't care. I'm guessing that they just don't trust Mariota throwing tight window stuff to Kyle Pitts when he's covered. Like, they don't want Mariota throwing into tight windows at all. They just want him to hit the easy open passes and that sort of thing, because I'm guessing they think that the placement isn't there. And like, I guess after this game and some of the other performances that we've seen, like maybe Mariota's accuracy as a touch passer is, not necessarily great. So maybe that's why we're not seeing Pitts targets, because Pitts is going to have the coverage on him. He's going to be covered. You might just have to throw it to him anyway because he's Kyle Pitts, and maybe the Falcons are nervous about doing that at this point with who they have at quarterback. We'll see if Ritter does play, when Ritter plays. I think we all know it's going to happen at some point. I don't think Mariota's been bad enough. That you're really calling for his head yet, but it was certainly a disappointing performance after what I thought was a pretty strong week 1. But it was, a West Coast road trip, second week with the team. Let's not get out the pitchforks yet for Mariota, but Ritter is there. He probably will play sooner rather than later. This was a bad game for Mariota, but I did like how he fought back late, and his ability to move the chains with his legs is important. The exchange with the center has been off, right? We've seen a lot of snap issues, so hopefully they'll get that ironed out as well. I really don't know if that's more on Mariota or Drew Dahlman. We did see that blitz that was like a free sack on Mariota. I think that was Dahlman not getting that protection call in right, because Bobby Wagner was completely untouched and two guys blocked one guy on that play. So, you know, these are things that are going to happen with when you have a new center in there and when you have a completely new quarterback as well. So, not necessarily shocking turns of events there, but it is it's sad to see, right? Like you'd like to see those mistakes get ironed out. You know, once again, red zone issues. Falcons got into the red zone several times. Penalties, mistakes really derailed those drives. You know, that first one they had the holding, then they missed early on in the game missed that field goal, then had a holding, false start, like just really sloppy. You know, they had that the snap hit Kyle Pitts as he was running past with motion. I mean, just not a great outcome at all for the Falcons on several of those plays. Like it's just the team's not like ready yet fully. Like disappointing, obviously, to see. Disappointing to see the failures there, to see the sloppy play. Like it really should be better, and it's disappointing. But you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see how things end up finishing for this team. We've got a lot of games left, but it is disappointing thus far to see the struggles. Certainly would prefer to see them, you know, fire on all cylinders, but it doesn't always happen, sadly. All right. Let's see what else we got here today. All right. Excuse me. Yeah. I know we did have a question. Kevin, how much better do you think the defense will be when Isaiah Oliver comes back? I think it will be better. I think it will be better. I thought the defense with Isaiah Oliver looked really good last year. I think right now they just don't really have a slot corner that they like. I think they really like D. Alford as a coverage option, but he is really small for a slot corner. That's just how it is. Like being 5'11", 175. Like if he can't get up closer to 200, he's going to be very light for a slot corner. Teams are going to start running at him. That's just kind of what I think they're thinking of, especially when they get down. Like that they need a bigger presence there, which is probably why we're seeing Eric Harris, right? Like he's a safety. I think that Mike Ford is very limited there. He's a little bit bigger in terms of his weight, but he's very limited as a coverage player. He's made a lot of mistakes in coverage as well. So I think that they're really just trying to get by with what they have, and they're just hoping that Isaiah Oliver's ready to come back week 5. Hopefully that will result in a big improvement. But again, we don't really know exactly how that's going. Brandon Brass, if Mariota craps the bed against the Seahawks, then can I get out my pitchfork? Yeah, probably. If they're 0-3, you can get out your pitchforks for anything at that point. Like, they really have to win the game against the Seahawks. They really do. Brave Dirty Hawk, can we talk about Terrell? I mean, Terrell's gotten victimized by just some really good plays. I don't really think anything Terrell has done has been bad, to be honest with you. I think he's had to go against Cooper Kupp and Michael Thomas in the first 2 weeks. That's pretty brutal. Also against, and I don't really think, like I said in my film review, like watching those two touchdowns Terrell gave up, I don't know that he could have covered those any better than he did. I don't think Terrell has played poorly. I think he had some great plays in run support today. He had that almost pick in the end zone. I think Terrell has been playing fine. I think this is how Terrell is going to look. This is how Terrell's going to look with no pass rush in front of him and a lot of other players in the secondary struggling, especially at the slot position. They just don't have the personnel to really make Terrell shine at this point. Hopefully Casey Hayward's okay. Darren Hall has been rough in coverage. We did see him force that fumble, which is great. But, in coverage, I think Darren Hall has been pretty mediocre. But yeah, Michael Walker, I know a lot of people were praising him. I think Michael Walker has been very up and down. I think he, as a coverage player, is where he's best. I think as a run defender, he's been pretty weak. He just doesn't tackle well. He had Akers dead to rights on a blitz that would have shut down one of the Rams' scoring drives, I believe. Just whiffed completely on the tackle in the backfield. That's just unacceptable. So I think if Walker can't improve his tackling, improve his run defending, he's gonna be a limited player and not really gonna be a long-term starter for this team. But again, second real game of him being a full-time starter. He's got time. But we also know that, Troy Anderson's waiting in the wings. So as soon as he's ready, he's coming in. So, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, Troy Anderson got a tackle for us. Like I thought Troy Anderson played well. I mean, you could see that he was like a rookie that hasn't played in the NFL before, right? He misread some plays. He got completely blocked out of some plays, but also showed off that incredible athleticism. Was able to block the punt, which was absolutely crucial for the Falcons having a chance to win this game. So like, I think Troy Anderson so far, you got to be happy with the pick. Like, even though he's only playing a limited role, he's being impactful, which is exactly what I hoped we would see early on. So far, pretty happy. Yeah, I'll try to get to some questions here, guys. Usually we have, a guest here that wants to wax poetic, like, Adnan's angry rant. I hope Adnan wouldn't have been as angry today. I know he was watching the game with friends, so hopefully, his anger was wrapped up a little bit for his buddies. But yeah, uh, ultimately, ultimately, I think this is a limited roster in terms of what they can do. The offensive line did not run block well today. They did not pass block particularly well either. And it really affects Mariota. Like if Mariota has a clean pocket, I think he can dissect stuff and do well. But I think that he's limited when he has pressure in his face. And I think he's just not the type of passer that's going to really take the top off a team and make them pay and really fit the ball into tight windows. I think he's functional. I think the offense will be fine with him at the helm overall. But, it's really like Mariota isn't the reason this team is 0-2. I mean, certainly. I think more than anything, they're 0-2 because of poor decisions in week one. And, in week two, I think they just played an opponent that was drastically better than them in the Rams and, to their credit, fought back and made a game out of it. But ultimately, I think the Rams are just a lot more talented than them, even hurt. So it is what it is. That's what happened. Yeah, I mean, that Kaderil Hodge, right? Yeah, that was a great catch by Kaderil Hodge. He's found ways to get open in both games so far. So props to Hodge for making it work. He's sort of acting like the third receiver for this team. Pretty sure he has more yards than Kyle Pitts, pretty handily. So that's obviously going to make people mad. But yeah, I mean, you have to be happy with Hodge. He's obviously a great special teamer as well. So good for him. All right. Let's see. My adult son, Kaderil Hodge, is playing well. Yeah, I'll take credit for Hodge. Sure, I'll accept that. Um, yeah. I think we're just this is a limited team. You guys, this is what I tried to tell everyone before the season, right? That the Falcons are probably going to look better than last year, but I don't know how many games they're going to win because they're playing a difficult schedule, right? The Rams, perfect example of the difficult schedule. It's a very difficult opponent, Super Bowl champion team. And, that they're going to have a hard time beating these good teams, even if they're playing better, which we saw, late today. They did start to play better, but they were already in such a big hole by being, sort of outclassed by this Rams team for much of the game that even after a furious rally, they were still down by like a touchdown. And, it was really tough for them. Kevin Ray Moon asks, do you think this offense is boring? It's not exciting right now. I don't know if it's quite boring yet, but it's fine. I like the threat of the quarterback run. I don't like that. I don't like that the running game struggled this week. It was sort of just smash up the middle on most of these runs. I thought the few outside zone plays they called actually looked pretty good. Like I think Cordell Patterson had his big run on that sort of outside zone off left tackle. That looked good. I mean, I get that the Rams have a really good linebacking core, which makes it hard to do those outside runs because those guys like Ernest Jones and Bobby Wagner are going to track that stuff down. But I think you still are going to have more luck there than running, straight up against Greg Gaines and A'Shawn Robinson and, Aaron Donald, which are three of the better defensive linemen in the NFL in terms of starters. Now, the Rams don't have a lot of depth, so I'm guessing the idea was to try to wear those guys out. But when you got down big, that game plan was sort of thrown out the window, unfortunately. We did not break 100 rushing yards today, Andre Taylor. The Falcons did get 90, which is still a good game by their standards compared to last year, but definitely not over 100. They didn't quite get there. Mariota had 16 on 6 carries, which was a bad day for him in terms of the running. And then Patterson and Algier both had 10 carries each. Patterson for 41 yards, and then Algier 30 yards. So not very efficient on the ground today at all. Pretty poor, actually. Patterson, the only one, averaged over 4.1 yard or over 4 yards per carry. Mariota, 2 picks, 2 TDs, not great, but under 200 yards passing. Sort of disappointing all around there. Falcons did get some interceptions as well. That helps, but yeah, it obviously sucks to. It sucks to go down 28-3. It does. It's nice to fight back a little bit and get back in the game. So that's sort of what I'm trying to take away from this, not focusing too much on how low they were at one point. If you could bring, Noah C asks, if you could bring back any one player we released, who would it be and why? I would say Hayden Hurst personally. I don't really think Hayden Hurst moves the needle for this team, to be honest with you. I think they have Anthony Firkser if they want to do that. I'm trying to think of someone that they cut that I would have I think Jacob Tuati Mariner. I know he's hurt. I never really understood why he was let go. I really like JTM. I think he would have been one of their better pass rushing options on the interior this year. Who else? Who else would I bring back? I'm not sure. I certainly do like Tuati Mariner. I mean, some people might have said the punter, but I think Bradley Pinion's been good, so not too concerned there either. Other than that, I'm not having too much remorse about anyone the Falcons cut having like a great season. I do miss JTM. I miss Josh Harris, the long snapper, but to be fair, like Liam McCullough been fine, so good for him. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that ends up looking, but so far, I'm not too upset. Probably JTM is like the one that I'm missing. Got Corey with the $1. He says, I don't trust Smith's decision making. We don't go on 4th and 1 at home to win the game, but we do go on 4th and 2 on the road in the second quarter. Yeah, Corey. I mean, I don't know what was going on with that. I mean, I don't actually hate going for it in that situation either, but just it's odd that they're like going for this ultra aggressive 4th and 2 after they like didn't go for just the layup 4th and 1. That was like an obvious choice. I think the 4th and 2 on the 50, it wouldn't be as big of a recommendation to go for it. I think it's probably closer to moderate, recommendation. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that was them being like, look, we're going to go for it. All you media folks, like, here you go. Here's us going for it. I hope you're happy. Like, I hope they didn't, make an arbitrary decision like that. But it's weird. I don't necessarily hate the decision to go for it. Honestly, I thought it's fine, but I didn't like the play call very well. Let's see. Abdullah outplayed Graham today. I mean, I always say Amir Abdullah. Abdullah Anderson did play well. I think this was like an audition for him. I think he'll probably be replacing I think though he'll probably be replacing Matt Dickerson on the active roster this week. I think he's just offers you more. So I that's my prediction right now. So that's sort of where I'm leaning. I think not Amir Abdullah. I almost did it again. Abdullah Anderson has been fine. I thought he looked good against the run. Showed a little juice as a pass rusher. Just a solid rotational guy. Obviously not someone that really moves the needle for you, but reliable. So fine with that. Grady did nothing as usual. I say trade him. Yeah, did you watch Grady Jarrett last week where he was like the best player on the field? Yeah, let's calm down about Grady Jarrett not doing anything. Um, he was completely game planned against by the Rams. He was getting doubled on almost every play. He still forced a few plays into tackles. Some other people did not. Some other people did not make the plays after he sort of forced them to move to a different direction. So that is also not Grady's fault that the other guys didn't. Other guys didn't. Don't come at me with the like Grady Jarrett's bad. Okay, do you see this jersey? This is not the guy to come to with your Grady Jarrett slander. All right, this is no Grady Jarrett slander allowed. Grady Jarrett's just fine. He's working his ass off every play. So, just not going to. He can't do it all by himself, but even Aaron Donald really can't. Watching him go with the Rams, after they've been missing some players on that defensive line, even Aaron Donald isn't necessarily bringing it home himself. So. Right. No slander allowed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Grady just needs help, especially now that he's like 30, ish. Like he needs to get more and more help. He's going to continue being good for a while, but he can't do it alone. And I do think that the Falcons are going to make it a priority to add to the trenches this this coming offseason. I think this previous offseason was about fleshing out the receiving core and getting the secondary pieces that they want in place and sort of adding. I mean, I think they were just sort of going best player available. They didn't get a lot of the trench pieces that they wanted, and I think that's where they're weakest. Right, is they did get some edge guys in there, but they didn't really get anything for the interior, and they also didn't fix the offensive line really. So I think we're looking for this team to really hit the trenches hard this coming year, and that will hopefully be the difference, right? Like if they can get a couple of guys onto that interior defensive line, maybe it's Jalen Carter, maybe it's some other folks, maybe they get another edge rusher, get another offensive lineman in there. I think they can be better, but yeah, they're just really undermanned on the interior defensive line. Like Grady Jarrett is like the only impact starter there. I think Anthony Rush is like okay. Taquan Graham's like okay, but just really pretty rough there, to be honest. Grady Jarrett can't do it alone. So yeah, guys, I don't know if there's too much to cover. I mean, I think we sort of did outside of like really nitty gritty stuff that I'll probably get more to in the film review. So I will go ahead and wrap it up with you here. I do appreciate everyone for hanging out with us tonight here on the Falcoholic Live. Not as angry a finish. Also not as good as it could have been. It would have really been nice to exercise those demons, but we didn't quite get there. We did get close, so that was at least a positive. But we'll see. I do appreciate you guys. I am Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on the Twitter. Like I said, I will have my film review coming on Tuesday on the podcast feed and on YouTube with some clips breaking down some stuff for you guys. I'm not exactly sure which series I will do or what plays I'll do. Probably some positive stuff from the comeback, but probably some other plays that annoyed me as well. But yeah, we'll tackle that. There'll be other content coming this week. Join us on Wednesday for the next Falcoholic Live show. But until then, guys, we really appreciate you here. Like and subscribe like you always have. We do appreciate those metrics. If you want access to the podcasts a night before they go live on the feed. You can subscribe to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. We really appreciate all that support, both there and on the video platform here. So thank you guys so much for your support. Check out thefalcoholic.com for all your written content needs. We got all kinds of great people doing great work over there this season. So even if the Falcons aren't playing particularly well, the coverage will be doing well over there in terms of the coverage. So until then, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. We'll talk to you next time on the Falcoholic Live. Hopefully looking at a better result in week 3 when the Falcons take on the Seattle Seahawks. An opponent should, in theory, be more evenly matched for them. So thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll talk to you next time on the Falcoholic Live. See you, folks.